Welcome back to the deep dive. Whether you're, prepping for a meeting or maybe commuting or just insanely curious today, we are super thrilled you're joining us.
Absolutely. We've got a really great one today.
Yeah, so our mission for you on this deep dive is to essentially give you a shortcut to sounding more natural, a lot clearer, and significantly more confident in your everyday English conversations.
Right. Specifically when you're answering that one question everyone gets asked.
Exactly. The dreaded, how was your yesterday? And we're pulling our insights today from this really fascinating transcript we found. It's from a YouTube video by the channel Speak English with Class, featuring a conversation between two hosts, Anna and Jake.
It's such a relatable video, honestly.
It really is. And we're going to break down their specific strategies, but first let's talk about why you actually need them. So picture this. You walk into the office or, you hop on a Zoom call, and a colleague asks you arguably the most common question in the entire English language.
How was your day?
Right. How was your yesterday? Or how was your day? And if you're learning English, or honestly, even if you are a native speaker, your brain it often completely freezes.
Total blank.
Yeah. You have lived an entire 24 hours of complex human experience.
Yeah.
And what actually comes out of your mouth. It was good. I worked.
It really is the ultimate conversational anticlimax, isn't it? I mean, we take this incredibly rich, dynamic thing, our lived experience, which is filled with all these little triumphs and annoyances, and we just reduce it down to a single flat word.
Good.
Right. Good, fine, busy. We do it almost as a defense mechanism, I think, because we haven't actually processed our own day yet.
Oh, that's so true.
But the result is that it completely kills the momentum of a real connection before it even has a chance to begin.
It's almost like a reflex.
Mm.
We default to fine because the alternative feels like way too much work in the moment. And Anna and Jake pinpoint this exact trap in their video. They call it the robot diary.
Robot diary, yes.
I love that term. Yeah. It's perfect. And today, we're going to figure out how to upgrade from being a robot to actually telling a compelling mini story about your day, using some very specific B2 level English phrases.
Because when we rely on that robot diary, we're basically just listing basic past tense verbs.
Right, like I woke up, I worked, I ate, I slept. In the video, they jokingly translate this, which I love too. Day completed, food consumed, human tired.
That translation captures the absurdity of it so well. The robot diary fails because it entirely lacks any human connection. I mean, it's essentially just a data dump.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because giving someone a list of verbs to describe your day is, it's a lot like handing them the grocery store receipt of your day instead of actually cooking them a meal.
Oh, I like that. A receipt.
Yeah, right. Like if you hand me a receipt, sure, it proves you bought eggs and flour. It proves a transaction occurred. I worked. I ate. It proves you existed yesterday.
Right.
But it doesn't give the other person any flavor, any sensory experience, or, any real connection to you as a human being.
That is a really great way to look at it. A receipt is just data. And the video actually provides a brilliant metaphor for how our brains store this daily data. They call it yesterday's folder.
Yesterday's folder.
Yeah. When someone asks you about your day, your brain opens this mental folder on your desktop, and it is just stuffed with completely random, disorganized files.
So many files.
I've got a file for the temperature of the coffee you drank, a file for 50 unread emails, maybe a file for a really awkward elevator ride, and then a file for a random snack you ate at 3 p.m.
I feel like my folder is honestly 90% random snack files, but I see your point. The instinct is to either close the folder entirely and just say good, or to open it and just start reading the file names aloud, which is exactly the robot diary.
Precisely. But the goal of social conversation isn't to read off every single file name.
Right.
The goal is to summarize the feeling of the folder as a whole. And to do that, Anna and Jake provide this highly practical formula. It's a natural storytelling pattern that humans intuitively respond to.
And that formula is time plus action plus feeling plus result.
Time, action, feeling, result.
So instead of the robotic, yesterday was good, I finished my work, you layer those elements. You create a tiny narrative arc.
Yeah.
But, and this is where I hit a wall with this, our days almost never follow a clean, simple arc.
Very true.
We aren't robots, meaning our lives are messy. My Tuesday doesn't have a neat 3-act structure. So how do we actually apply a formula like that when a day goes completely off script?
That is the real challenge, isn't it? Like when reality just doesn't match the plan. And this is where having the right vocabulary blocks those specific B2 phrases becomes so essential. The transcript highlights a few phrases designed specifically to navigate the unexpected. And the first one is the word eventful.
Eventful, meaning quite literally full of events, like
Yeah.
things just kept happening.
Exactly. But the psychology behind why we use eventful is really interesting. When you tell a coworker, yesterday was more eventful than I expected, you are instantly communicating a gap between your expectation and your reality.
Oh, I see.
You're signaling to the listener, hey, I expected a quiet day of just answering emails, but the universe had totally different plans. It builds this immediate intrigue without sounding like you are complaining.
There is a fantastic image in the video for the exact feeling, actually. They talk about how we pretend our daily to-do list is our helpful friend, but in reality, it's standing there like a tiny boss just yelling at us all day.
Yes, the tiny boss. And when that tiny boss gets interrupted by random surprises, that is when you need language to describe the fallout. Which brings us to a crucial phrasal verb they emphasize, which is turned out.
Turned out.
Right. We use turned out to describe how a situation finally finished, specifically when that ending was a total surprise to us. Like saying, the presentation turned out better than I expected.
What's fascinating here is how incredibly precise English can be when describing the exact mechanics of a surprise.
Oh, totally.
It's not just that something unexpected happened, it's how it happened. Anna and Jake break down a very nuanced distinction between two common phrasal verbs that English learners mix up all the time.
Yes. Ran into and ended up.
Exactly. Ran into and ended up.
This distinction is a game changer for sounding natural. Let's really unpack the literal imagery behind them. So, take ran into.
Okay.
If you say, I ran into an old friend, think about the physical action of running. It implies momentum, suddenness, and a lack of total control. You don't plan a collision.
Right, you don't schedule a crash.
Exactly. So, ran into is perfect for describing a meeting that happened purely by accident. You turn the corner in the grocery store, and boom, there is your friend.
Unless, of course, you literally ran into them with your shopping cart.
Oh, yes.
Which, as they joke in the video, is a totally different scenario where you need to apologize profusely before you even worry about your English grammar.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. But contrast that accidental collision with the phrase, ended up. The video uses the example of planning to stay home in your sweatpants, right? But then a friend calls, you start chatting, they convince you to get dressed, and you go out for coffee.
Yeah,
You didn't run into them on the street, you ended up meeting them.
because there was a shift in the timeline. Ended up implies a journey, right? A chain of events that diverted you from your original destination and kind of dropped you at a new conclusion.
That's the exact mechanism. It acknowledges the detour. Let's apply this to an adult context, like office politics.
Oh boy.
If you try to leave the office at 5 p.m., but a coworker stops you to ask a quick question,
That's never a quick question.
never. And 30 minutes later, you're on the floor fixing a jammed printer. You didn't run into the printer, you ended up fixing the printer. It is a very natural way to describe the unpredictable flow of real life.
The transcript uses another really relatable metaphor here to capture that chaos. They say a day like that starts as a normal sandwich, but somehow turns into a whole dinner.
It perfectly illustrates the escalation. You open the door for one small, simple plan sandwich, and suddenly 3 more complicated, demanding plans walk right in and demand a full dinner party.
A full dinner party.
And that is exactly why the robot diary fails. Saying, I woke up, I met a friend, I fixed a printer, it completely strips away the chaos of the sandwich becoming the dinner.
But let me present a real-world dilemma here, because we've been talking about these surprises as if they're, quirky, slightly annoying, or even fun diversions. Getting coffee with a friend is great.
Sure.
But what happens when you have way too many of those unexpected events? That eventful day suddenly crosses a line into something much heavier. What if the sandwich turns into a dinner party that you absolutely did not want to host, and now you were just incredibly stressed out?
Yeah, that happens to all of us. And the video provides a whole different vocabulary toolkit for that kind of struggle. Because let's face it, a lot of our days are messy and really frustrating.
Sure.
They highlight the phrase took longer than expected. This is the ultimate diplomatic phrase for when a task expands and completely devours your afternoon.
Oh, and the metaphor they use for this is painfully accurate. They call it the memory museum.
Our memory museum.
They describe that specific phenomena where you decide to quickly clean your office or your bedroom. You think, hey, it'll take 10 minutes. But then you find an old shoebox in the back of the closet.
It's a trap.
It is. Suddenly, it's 2 hours later, you're sitting cross-legged on the floor, reading old school papers from 2018, completely derailed. Your quick cleaning task turned into a trip to the memory museum. Took longer than expected.
It's an excuse that doesn't sound like a failure, which naturally bridges us to the next, much more intense feeling they analyze, which is being overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah. This is when eventful stops being intriguing and starts being paralyzing. Too much information, too many tasks, too many demands on your attention all at once.
The way Anna and Jake describe overwhelmed is probably the most modern, visceral metaphor I've heard in a really long time. They say it is like having 20 tabs open in your brain's internet browser.
Yes.
And one of those tabs is playing really loud music, and you cannot figure out which one it is.
It captures the cognitive load of modern life perfectly. You aren't just busy, your bandwidth is entirely consumed by background noise.
But here's where it's really interesting. I tried applying this mindset the other day. I was having one of those 20-tab days, the music was blaring in my head, and a colleague asked me how my afternoon was going.
Okay.
And I froze. Because I wanted to be honest, but I also didn't want to be the office downer. I didn't want to sound dramatic or heavy and say, my brain is screaming and I'm trapped in a memory museum.
Right.
How do you summarize a bad day without sounding like you're just whining?
That is a very sophisticated social concern, and it's a tightrope that language learners really struggle to walk. You want authenticity, but you need appropriateness.
Exactly.
The transcript provides a very elegant linguistic solution for this. You soften the negative adjectives using a modifier. So instead of saying, yesterday was a disaster, or I am completely overwhelmed, you use the phrase a bit.
A bit.
You say, yesterday was a bit frustrating, or the afternoon got a bit overwhelming.
Just adding a bit. It sounds like such a tiny change, but it completely alters the temperature of the sentence.
It does, because it changes your relationship to the stress. By saying a bit, you're demonstrating that you are still in control. You are observing the chaos, but you aren't consumed by it.
It makes you sound balanced and calm, even when the topic is stressful.
Exactly. And socially, it signals to your coworker that they don't need to panic or fix your life for you. They just need to offer a sympathetic nod.
That makes a lot of sense. You're acknowledging the difficulty without letting it define your entire identity for the day.
Exactly. And that emotional restraint sets the stage for the absolute hero of this entire toolkit. After you admit the day was a bit frustrating, you drop in the magic phrase.
Which is?
Managed to.
Managed to. As in, the morning was a bit overwhelming, but I managed to get the report done.
Yes. Think about the psychology of managed to. It means you succeeded at doing something, but specifically when that thing was difficult.
Right.
If you just say, I finished the report, you're right back to the boring robot diary. But if you say, I managed to finish the report, you are injecting a struggle into the narrative. You're implying that the tiny boss to-do list tried to defeat you, the 20 browser tabs tried to distract you, but you survived.
I really like that framing. It turns a mundane Tuesday into a miniature epic. You become the hero of your own daily battle. I managed to find my keys, which thankfully were not in the fridge this time.
Exactly.
You're acknowledging your own effort. It frames mere survival as a tiny, hard-won victory.
And if we circle back to that core formula we talked about, time, action, feeling, result time, you can see how naturally these pieces fit together.
Let's hear it.
So, yesterday morning felt a bit overwhelming, covers time and feeling. I had a few tasks that took longer than expected, covers the action, but I managed to finish the important things, delivers the result.
It's a complete, satisfying social transaction.
It really is.
So we've broken down how to describe the unexpected detours, the stressful surprises, and the tiny victories. We have all these vocabulary blocks. But how do we actually weave them together so that the person listening actually cares? Because the video makes a really profound point toward the end. They talk about the critical difference between reporting your day and reflecting on your day.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where we make the leap from simple information transfer to actual relationship building.
Yeah.
Reporting is just stating the facts of the timeline. Reflecting is sharing what those facts mean to you now. in the present moment as you're telling the story. And the transcript highlights a beautiful phrasal verb to facilitate this.
Yeah.
To look back on.
When I look back on you, so you're shifting your temporal perspective.
Exactly. When you look back on something, you are creating distance. You are stepping out of the chaos of the 20 open tabs, and you're evaluating the experience from a safe place. When I look back on it, I feel proud that I managed to finish. You aren't just dumping your folder on the listener. You are processing the contents of the folder with them.
Anna and Jake use a really fun baking analogy for this. They say, the events of your day, the meetings, the errands, the detours into the memory museum, that is the plain cake.
Right.
But your feelings, your reflection on what those events meant, that is the frosting.
And in social interactions, people are really there for the frosting.
Totally.
The facts are secondary to how the facts made you feel, and the ultimate frosting word they suggest is the adjective worthwhile.
Worthwhile, meaning something justified the time, the effort, or the energy spent on it.
Right, so you can say, the day was incredibly busy and a bit frustrating, but when I look back on it, it felt worthwhile. It is a highly sophisticated, emotionally intelligent way to summarize a complex experience. It shows real maturity in your language.
It sounds great for a busy, productive day. But let's test that theory against the most boring scenario possible.
Okay, hit me.
What if literally nothing happened? What if my yesterday was just a rainy Tuesday? I worked from my couch, I ate a sandwich that actually just stayed a sandwich, and I went to bed. Do I really need to invent a Hollywood plot out of my Tuesday just to practice using B2 English phrases?
Not at all. And it's important that we address this because the pressure to sound interesting can lead people right back to the safety of the robot diary.
Exactly, you panic.
The video confronts this reality head on. Not every yesterday requires fireworks. If your Tuesday was genuinely uneventful, be honest about it. But use natural phrasing.
So no robot diary, nothing.
Right. Instead of a flat nothing, you can simply say, nothing major happened.
Nothing major happened. It still has a rhythm to it. It sounds so much more intentional than just shrugging and saying nothing.
It implies a sense of peace rather than a void of activity. You're telling the listener the lack of events was actually the defining feature of the day. And if the only actual plot point of your Tuesday was doing 3 loads of laundry, they offer the perfect phrasal verb to elevate that.
Right.
Caught up on. To catch up on something means to spend time doing a task that you had neglected or didn't have time to do earlier.
So instead of the robotic, I cleaned my house, you say, yesterday was pretty quiet. I just stayed home and caught up on some housework. Or, I caught up on emails.
Or the most universally relatable one, I caught up on sleep.
Yes. Everyone respects someone who caught up on sleep. What I love about that phrase is that it turns a complete lack of exciting events into a positive, productive action.
It really does.
It acts as the frosting on the cake, even if it's a very simple, plain vanilla cake. It tells the listener, I was in a deficit of rest, and I successfully managed to fix it.
Now, all of this raises a very practical question for anyone listening who wants to apply these concepts. It is one thing to nod along and understand phrases like turned out, managed to, or caught up on while you're listening to us discuss them.
Sure.
It is an entirely different cognitive task to recall them in that split second when a coworker suddenly asks, how was your day?
That is the ultimate test.
Yeah.
As they joke in the video, when you're put on the spot, your brain panics, clears the desk, and just hands you one lonely word. Good.
Yes. To bridge the gap between understanding the vocabulary and actually using it, the transcript emphasizes that you have to practice these blocks together as a formula until they become muscle memory.
Time, action, feeling, result.
Exactly. You don't need to memorize massive, complicated academic words to sound fluent. You just need these simple, precise phrases that connect your physical actions to your emotional state.
It really is a complete shift in mindset. You're consciously choosing to stop reading the grocery receipt of your life. I love the final metaphor they use. They say, yesterday is like a small suitcase.
Oh, I love the suitcase metaphor.
When someone asks you about it, you have a choice. You can keep it locked and just say, good.
Yeah.
Or you can unzip that suitcase, open it up, and deliberately choose to share the moments, the frustrations, and the feelings packed inside with them.
And maybe that one random 3 p.m. snack file, too.
Always the snack file. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means that the next time you hop on a call or walk into a room and someone asks you, how was yesterday? You don't need to freeze.
Not at all.
And you definitely don't need to default to the robot diary. You have the structural tools to tell a story. You can set the scene by saying it was more eventful than expected. You can describe the twists and turns of how a situation turned out or who you ended up talking to.
Yeah.
You can acknowledge the 20 open tabs in your brain and then celebrate the fact that you managed to get through it anyway. You are moving from merely reporting the data to actively reflecting on the experience.
You are remembering to serve the frosting.
Which brings us right back to where we started today. We talked about how answering this simple everyday question with a dry list of verbs is like handing someone a receipt.
Yeah.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a challenge, a little thought experiment to really test your new perspective on how you share your daily life.
A chance to put the formula to the test.
Exactly. Think about the day you're having right now. If you had to describe what you did today to a friend, but you were completely banned from using any action verbs.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. You are not allowed to say, I went, I worked, I saw, or I ate. How would you describe the frosting of your day? If you could only communicate the feeling, the surprises, the struggles, and what it all meant when you look back on it, how would that restriction completely change the story you tell?
That is a phenomenal way to force yourself out of the robot diary. It removes the crutch of just listing data.
Think about it. Try it out the next time someone asks. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring the nuances of how we connect. Keep practicing your phrasing, and we will catch you next time.